Hey everybody, I hope you're doing very well today. I'm having a very good day, but I kind of noticed that all day long I've been sitting here thinking, man, I wish I was reading a good book. So let's do some story time with Mr. Michael. Super cool. Today we've got a really exciting thing to talk about. So first off, today we're going to get to do a very special request. And you know, special requests are my favorites. This book was requested by a young lady named Lisa. Lisa, thank you very, very much for recommending this book. I'm so excited we get to read it together. And then this book's weird, y'all. So the book today is called Wabi, Sabi, and it's written by Mark Reibstein, and its art is by Ed Young. But here's the weird thing about this book. It doesn't open like you would think a book would regularly open. This book, if we did this, look, everything would be sideways. No, this book is supposed to be read like this, on its side. So we're going to open it up like this. Whoa! And we're going to get to read it together. So I'm very excited to find out what's in it. Lisa, one of our great viewers, loves this book a lot, and I think we're going to love it too. So, yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to not drop this book at some point. We'll find out. I'm very used to reading books like this, and now I gotta read a book like this. Hi, how you doing? So let's find out what's gonna happen. It's a thrilling day. Anything could occur here on Storytime with Mr. Michael as we read Wabi Sabi. So, shall we begin? Wabi Sabi by Mark Reibstein, art by Ed Young. In the beginning, Mr. Reibstein gives us this little definition of the Japanese term Wabi Sabi. It says, Wabi Sabi is a way of seeing the world that is at the heart of Japanese culture. It finds beauty and harmony in what is simple, imperfect, natural, modest, and mysterious. It can be a little dark, but it is also warm and comfortable. It may be best understood as a feeling rather than an idea. Wabi Sabi was a cat who lived in Kyoto, Japan. One day, visitors from another country asked Wabi Sabi's master what her name meant. It had never occurred to her before that Wabi Sabi was anything more than her name. Wabi Sabi watched as her master drew breath through her teeth, shook her head, and said, "That's hard to explain." The cat's tail twitching, she watches her master, still waiting in silence. Curious now, Wabi Sabi wondered if her friend Snowball could explain the meaning of her name to her. Snowball, who had been napping, stretched, yawned, and sighed. "That's hard to explain," she blinked. "It's a kind of beauty," she added after a minute, her eyes closing again as though dreaming. She went on. "An old straw mat, rough on cat's paws, pricks and tickles, hurts, and feels good, too." Then, Snowball went back to sleep. Wabi Sabi wasn't sure she understood, but she didn't want to bother Snowball anymore, so she asked Rascal, the dog, if he knew about Wabi Sabi. Rascal was smart, but kind of mean. "That's too hard to explain to someone like you," he snapped. Then, almost to himself, he said, "Poor Wabi Sabi, as simple as a brown leaf. So ordinary." Now I'm even more confused, sighed Wabi Sabi. Am I beautiful or ordinary? Can anyone explain Wabi Sabi to me? She cried. A bird flying by thought the question was for her. That's hard to explain, she said to Wabi Sabi, but there is someone who can help you. His name is Kosho, and he lives on Mount Hai to the east. A wise old monkey living among the pine trees knows Wabi Sabi. Thank you, said Wabi Sabi, and off she went to learn what her name meant. To get to Mount Hai, she had to cross through the city. Dazzled by the big buildings, shiny glass, and sleek cars, awed by the busy, sharply dressed people, she wondered if these pretty things could be Wabi Sabi. She decided that if her name was true to her, it must be softer, quieter, darker. Even in cities, before the shock of new light, the color of dusk. A short time after Wabi Sabi entered the woods, she arrived at the foot of Mount Hai. The woods were dark now, so hoping to find Kosho in the morning, she curled up beneath an old pine tree and went to sleep. She awoke to the sounds of a stick stirring and tapping. A warm bowl of tea offered by a monkey. Please, steam rising gently. Very glad to have tea and company, she said, "Thank you. My name is Wabi Sabi." "That's wonderful," the monkey replied. Encouraged, she asked, "Do you know what that means?" "Well, that's," he began. "I know, hard to explain," she said, but he went on. "The pale moon resting on foggy water. Hear that splash? A frog's jumped in." "That's Wabi Sabi?" she asked. "Is that all? I don't know if I can—" "It's more," said the monkey. "Listen, watch, feel." He said no more, so she watched him make tea. He moved slowly but gracefully, as if he were dancing, and he handled his things as if they were gold, although they were wooden or clay. Wabi Sabi felt what was in her paws. A warm, heavy bowl, comfortable as an old friend, not fine, smooth china. She looked carefully at the woods surrounding them. There was so much life, as in the city, but here things were not clean, neat, or sharp-edged. There were no straight lines, yet there were many designs, on trees, in clouds, and dirty ponds. She saw that everything was alive and dying, too, like the damp autumn leaves curled beneath their feet. "Simple things are beautiful," she heard the monkey say as he poured more tea for her, looking down at the tea in her bowl. Seeing herself plain and beautiful, she whispered, "Now I understand." After some time, Wabi Sabi thanked her new friend and started back for home. Because she did not hurry, she found a place called Jinkaikaju, the Silver Temple. There was nothing silver there, but she found the place to be very beautiful, in a Wabi Sabi kind of way. Although the buildings and gardens were shaped by humans, they were neither fancy nor grand. Moved by the natural simplicity of the place, Wabi Sabi composed 3 poems about what she saw. Yellow bamboo stalks bow by tea house doors so low, emperors must kneel. Dark buildings floating sit on white sand seas. A stream sweeps small stones, chanting. The monk returns, leaves to just raked sand. This humble cat might understand. Tired but glad, Wabi Sabi returned at last to her house. She curled up on the straw mat in the kitchen, enjoying the warmth there. She could smell the wind in her fur and feel her long journey's steps deep in her bones. The sun's last rays stretch. A silver brush stroke shivers on warm, clouded glass. "Now I think I know what to call this feeling," she said to herself. It's "Wabi Sabi!" cried her master, seeing her. "Where have you been?" "It's hard to explain," she purred, feeling simply and beautifully at home. The end. Everybody, wow, what a beautiful book. What an amazing way to write a book. Like this, instead of like this. That's pretty crazy, but books don't have to all be the same. Every book can be different. Anybody can put a book together any way they want. When the story's this nice and the pictures are this beautiful, it's pretty easy to do whatever you want with a book. Now, there's something else that happened in this book that we didn't talk about beforehand. Almost every single page contained one of those kinds of poems that Wabi Sabi wrote at one point. Those little poems are all called haikus, and it's a Japanese style of poetry that really just has one rule. It doesn't say you have to rhyme. It doesn't say you have to make it about flowers. It doesn't say it has to be about anything in particular. All it says is that the first line needs to have 5 syllables. The second line needs to have 7 syllables, and the third line needs to have 5 syllables again. That's all. That's the only rule. You could write your own haiku. You might write it in the comments below. Maybe tell me what you thought of this book. So here's one of Wabi Sabi's examples again about that haiku. Yellow bamboo stalks bow by tea house doors so low, emperors must kneel. So that's yellow bamboo stalks, that's 5 syllables. Bow by tea house doors so low, that's 7. Emperors must kneel. That's the only rule, and you can write your own amazing poetry. Maybe it'll be about how pretty a flower is, or about what road you might want to take. Or maybe it'll be about a pretty kitty cat named Wabi Sabi. Maybe it'll be about how much you love Storytime. Maybe it'll be about what your favorite book is. Why don't you go ahead down on the comments and write your own haiku? Maybe you'll tell me what your favorite book is and I'll get to read it next time on Storytime with Mr. Michael. I'm really, really happy that Lisa recommended this book to us because I'm really glad we got to read it and got to learn a little about poetry today too. Japanese poetry called haiku. So thank you guys very much for coming. Thank you for watching as always. And I really am looking forward to the next time we all get to hang out together on Storytime with Mr. Michael. Okay, bye everybody.